Big Ten win totals are posted. Now, this is where it gets a little bit fascinating because the big story in the Big Ten has been that there's been like a tier one, and then there's pretty big separation, and then there's like a sandbag on the bottom of the league. And there's just a lot of gross at the bottom of the Big Ten. If this graphic on our screen right now is to be believed, that continues this year. Because there are two teams, Indiana and Oregon, that both have over-under win totals of 10.5. As for teams that have totals of 5.5 or lower, the Big Ten has 7 of them. The SEC, by comparison, has 3. So that's kind of how the perception of the sport is right now. The top of the SEC doesn't quite match the top of the Big Ten, but the bottom of the Big Ten, way worse than the bottom of the SEC. You just Rutgers, Maryland, UCLA, Northwestern, Minnesota, those teams all under 6.5. Then you got Wisconsin, Nebraska at 6.5. But the top 3 make sense. Like, I'm not even really going to talk a whole lot about Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State. Ohio State's total is 9.5 because their schedule's tougher this year. Now, we do have it on pretty good authority that if Oregon and or Indiana had Ohio State's schedule, they would also have totals of 9.5. So obviously there's a huge schedule piece that gets baked into this. But the first team I want to talk to you about is not Ohio State. I want to talk to you about Penn State. Because Penn State has an over-under win total of 9.5. It's year one, though. New coaching staff. A lot of roster churn, right? Well, the coach that's coming in there churned a lot of his old roster in there, and the schedule is workable. I lean over 9.5 wins for Penn State. What a world in which we live. So the big 3 on this schedule, USC, October 10th, at Michigan the next week, and then they got a trip to Washington in early November. If I could just get 2-1 there, if Matt Campbell's watching tonight, buddy, if you can just go 2-1 there, I feel pretty good. And because of all the newness, I do need to remind you, they don't play any of those teams until week 6. Their first 5 weeks are Marshall, at Temple, Buffalo, Wisconsin, at Northwestern. Just a garbage, inexcusably bad out-of-conference schedule. But you're not allowed to criticize Big Ten out-of-conference schedules. And so then we get to USC in week 6, and Southern Cal's got to go to Penn State, which is basically like flying to Russia for USC. And then we're off to the races. They play 5 of the bottom 7 teams in the Big Ten odds. There's no Oregon here. There's no Ohio State. There's no Indiana. I think they're going to be able to win 10 games this year. So I lean pretty solidly Penn State over 9.5. Now I've got to balance it out with an under. And for that, we go to Illinois. I wrestled with this, but Illinois being at 7.5, it's a slight under lean for me. 8 wins last year, right, Jesse? So they went 8-4 last year, and nothing's really wrong with them this year. I just think they replace a whole lot. And I think there's a little bit too much of 2025 baked into this number. The defense took huge hits. And it could be that Brett Bielema just snaps his fingers and magic happens and they're as good, if not better. In which case, oh well, I lose $20. But they did draw Ohio State and Oregon. And there is certainly a scenario where Illinois just goes 9-3 this year. I'm kind of banking on, with so much newness, they end up on the wrong side of some one-possession games. And there's that group of teams like Nebraska, Iowa, even like at Northwestern. It's kind of the perfect time for them to play Duke. But I kind of just wonder about a lot of these games like at Michigan State even. Pat Fitzgerald, year one magic. I kind of think there's some one-possession games in there. Maybe they end up on the wrong side of them. But I don't know. I've not made a good career of going against Brett Bielema. So I wouldn't, in retrospect, ignore the last minute and a half of the show. I want it to be on record, but ignore the last minute and a half. Now, this next minute and a half, I feel pretty good about. Hey, guys, do me one favor. Check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you are, great. If you're not, it's that easy. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't sign you up for anything. It just helps us do the show this way forever. All right, back to the clip. And if we know one thing about me when it comes to over-under season win totals, it's pay attention when I talk about Nebraska. 2 years ago, I took Nebraska over. They missed by a half a game. Last year, I took Nebraska over. They missed by a half a game. I am now fearlessly and boldly and proactively taking Nebraska over 6.5 wins. And let me tell you why. Matt Rule year 4. That's why. Yes, forget Matt Rule year 3. It's Matt Rule year 4. They missed it by a half game the last 2 years. They will be upgraded on offense. Mark my words, they will be. They will not be in the 60s and the 80s in passing and rushing offense, respectively, this year. They did low-key excellent work in the portal. Even though they did not target Anthony Calandria at quarterback, he will just work out for them because that's how college football happens. It will work out for them. Now, here's the problem. Look at the schedule. Hot starts have not been a problem for Nebraska. Garbage finishes have. So they play Ohio, and then Bowling Green, and then North Dakota, and then Michigan State, and then Maryland. I'm counting on 5-0 at that point. Now, here's the downside. You get a little overconfident because if they're 5-0 and you're thinking, man, I just need 2 more wins. Okay, well then Indiana comes to town. And then they go to Oregon. And then a vastly improved Washington team comes to town. And then comes the 2-week stretch. You got to go on the road for both of them, but there's a 2-week stretch, and that's your moment. Because we just got to win either at Illinois or at Rutgers. And I can tell there's a wobbly tire, and there's a little bit of steam coming from under the hood, but it's just Illinois and Rutgers. We just got to win one of them. Boom, boom. You're -2 turnovers in each game. You lose both of them. Ohio State comes and splatters you. And then you're on the road in Iowa City the last week of the season trying to get yourself to 7-5. I don't want that. But I could see it. So how about we just take care of Washington when they come to Lincoln, Nebraska? Washington has no business winning in Lincoln, Nebraska. Come on now. So I think we can get 7 wins. Dare I say we can get 8 wins? No, 7. 7 will do. 7 will do. A lot of hands went up, justifiably so in the control room. 7 will do. Lastly, I'm going to take another over in the Big Ten, and that's Wisconsin. Wisconsin's over-under win total is 6.5. I am a hard over lean on Wisconsin this year. There's no Ohio State on the schedule, nor is there an Oregon on the schedule, nor is there an Indiana on the schedule, nor is there a Michigan on the schedule. Well, who did they play in the Big Ten? Good question. 6 of the bottom 7 teams in the odds. That's who they play in conference play. Now, they do have Notre Dame out of conference, but we ran the numbers. They could lose to Notre Dame and Penn State and USC and Iowa, and they can afford 2 more losses. And you add in all that with the fact that Luke Fickell is still a good football coach, even if he made some wrong moves at the outset, and everything's on the line up there. This is a slam dunk must-win season. It is a prove-it moment for Luke Fickell, and I'm just going to trust him backed into a corner. We all know how a Badger acts backed into a corner. Luke Fickell's no different. They're one and the same at this point. You're telling me that I can't get 7 wins this year? It's Wisconsin. 7 wins? Yeah, I can get it. So I'll take over on Wisconsin as well.